What if I told you that there was a queen so obsessed with eternal youth that she murdered over 600 innocent girls and literally bathed in their blood? A queen whose vanity turned her into one of history's most prolific serial killers. This is the true story of Countess Elizabeth, the Blood Queen, whose quest for beauty became a nightmare that haunts Hungary to this day. Welcome back to Throne of Scandals. I'm your host, and today's story is so disturbing that it inspired countless vampire legends and horror stories. But this is unfiction. This is the real-life tale of a noblewoman whose beauty obsession turned her into a monster. If you think modern beauty standards are extreme, wait until you hear what lengths this 16th century queen went to in her pursuit of eternal youth. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this story will change how you think about vanity forever. Born in E10 by Lőscher, Elizabeth enters the world as Hungarian royalty. Her uncle is the King of Poland, her cousins rule Transylvania, and her family controls vast territories across Eastern Europe. From birth, she's treated like a precious jewel, stunningly beautiful with porcelain skin, raven black hair, and piercing blue eyes. But there's something sinister in the bloodline. Her Aunt Clara practiced witchcraft, her cousin was violently insane, and her brother suffered from seizures and fits of rage. By age 11, Elizabeth shows signs of the family curse, unnaturally cruel, fascinated with pain and suffering, but also breathtakingly beautiful. At 15, she marries Count Ferenc, known as the Black Knight for his ruthless military campaigns. It seems perfect, two powerful nobles uniting their fortunes. But Ferenc is often away fighting wars, leaving Elizabeth alone with unlimited wealth, absolute power, and no supervision. Elizabeth's cruelty begins with servant punishments. A girl who spills wine gets her hands burned with hot irons. A maid who wrinkles a dress is stripped naked and forced to stand in the snow. But Elizabeth doesn't just punish mistakes, she creates reasons for punishment. Deliberately knocking over candles, then blaming servant girls. The castle staff live in constant terror, but they can't escape. Elizabeth owns them completely. Her descent accelerates in her late 20s when she becomes obsessed with aging. Despite being considered one of Hungary's most beautiful women, she spends hours studying her reflection, searching for wrinkles or gray hairs. Elizabeth begins consulting witches and alchemists about eternal youth. They tell her about ancient rituals involving blood, that the life force of young women can transfer their youth to whoever bathes in it. During one violent rage, Elizabeth strikes a servant so hard that blood splatters across her hand. When she washes it off, she swears her skin looks younger where the blood had been. Whether real or imagined, Elizabeth becomes convinced she's discovered the secret to eternal youth. And that's when the real horror begins. Elizabeth's first deliberate murder happens in 1590. She chooses Anna, a 14-year-old servant known for her beautiful complexion and golden hair. Elizabeth lures Anna to her private chambers, drugs her with wine laced with paralyzing herbs that keep the victim conscious, then cuts her throat and collects the blood in a silver basin. What happens next is unspeakable. Elizabeth bathes in blood and believing she can steal the girl's beauty. The murder is easily covered up. Anna was just a servant with no family, but Elizabeth is already planning her next victim. Over the following months, servant girls begin disappearing at an alarming rate. Elizabeth has developed a systematic method of murder, and she's getting better with each victim. By 1595, Elizabeth has perfected her horrific ritual with accomplices. Her old nurse, Alona, manservant Johann Zuzveri, and maid Dorothea Shantes. Her preferred victims are girls aged 12 to 16, chosen for their youth and beauty. She believes younger, more beautiful victims have more powerful anti-aging blood. The murder process becomes increasingly elaborate. Elizabeth doesn't kill quickly, she tortures victims first, believing fear and pain make the blood more potent. Elizabeth uses special silver knives and collects blood in consecrated chalices stolen from churches. Sometimes she drinks the blood while warm, thinking consumption is more effective than just bathing. She believes different blood types have different properties. Virgin blood is most powerful. Noble blood beats peasant blood, and blood taken during full moons has magical properties. As her appetite grows, Elizabeth creates a murder network. She sends accomplices to villages recruiting servant girls with promises of good wages. She establishes a finishing school for young noble ladies, advertising court etiquette education while actually creating a hunting ground for higher quality victims. Girls arriving at Lackey's castle have no idea what awaits them. Elizabeth has turned her castle into a torture chamber with secret rooms, hidden dungeons, and elaborate blood extraction devices. The most chilling aspect is how she maintains her public image, hosting elegant parties and corresponding with European intellectuals while secretly being a mass murderer. When her husband Ferenc dies in 1604, the last restraint on Elizabeth's behavior disappears. Now a wealthy widow with complete estate control, she's killing multiple girls weekly, convinced she needs constant blood infusions to maintain beauty. But peasant blood no longer satisfies her. Only noble blood can reverse aging. This is her fatal mistake. Elizabeth begins targeting daughters of minor nobility. Girls whose disappearances won't go unnoticed like peasant servants. She tells families their daughters died of plague, but too many noble families are losing daughters. The methods become increasingly sadistic. Elizabeth installs iron cages where she suspends victims and pierces them with spikes, draining blood slowly. She creates freezing chambers where girls are doused with water and left to die, while their blood turns to ice. Most horrifically, she begins keeping victims alive for extended periods while regularly draining their blood, believing terror and prolonged suffering make blood more powerful. Elizabeth's downfall begins in 1609 when King Matthias II receives complaints from Hungarian nobleman Count Georgi, whose daughter disappeared after attending Elizabeth's finishing school. Also, Elizabeth's cousin visits Lactus Castle unannounced, hoping to either prove innocence or cover up crimes privately. What he discovers is beyond nightmares. Torture in progress. One girl bled to death, another dying from wounds, several more locked in dungeons awaiting their turn. The evidence of systematic murder is overwhelming. The investigation reveals hidden torture rooms, detailed murder journals, and Elizabeth's own diary documenting 612 victims over 19 years. The youngest was 10, the oldest 26. She documented names, ages, and specific rituals for each victim, treating mass murder like scientific experimentation. Elizabeth's 1611 trial becomes one of Europe's most sensational court cases. Over 300 witnesses testify about castle horrors. Survivors describe torture so brutal that court officials leave during testimony. Her tortured accomplices confess to gruesome details about blood-bathing rituals and elaborate ceremonies. The most shocking revelation comes when investigators examine Elizabeth herself. Despite decades of bloodbaths designed to preserve youth, she looks exactly like what she is, a 51-year-old woman who's aged normally. The rituals did nothing to preserve beauty. They simply fed delusions while she committed mass murder. The trial concludes with accomplices executed, but Elizabeth's noble birth protects her from execution. The family's political connections suppress full crime details to avoid scandal. Instead, Elizabeth is walled up alive in her own castle, imprisoned in windowless rooms with only a small food delivery slot. A living death that will slowly drain her life as she drained her victims. Elizabeth spends her final 4 years in solitary confinement, going slowly mad in darkness. Guards report constant self-talking, sometimes believing she's still young and beautiful, sometimes screaming about blood and murder. She dies in 1614 at age 54, found dead on her prison cell floor. Even in death, horror continues. Elizabeth is buried in an unmarked grave, because villagers threaten to dig up and desecrate her body. Lactus Castle is abandoned immediately, believed cursed by locals who report ghostly figures of young women wandering the ruins for centuries. And there you have it. The true story of Elizabeth the Queen who bathed in blood to stay young. A woman whose vanity transformed her into one of history's most prolific serial killers. Her quest for eternal youth cost 612 innocent lives and turned her own life into a living nightmare. Elizabeth's story reminds us that beauty without compassion is meaningless, that power without restraint leads to evil, and that the pursuit of immortality often leads only to death. She sought to preserve youth by stealing it from others, but lost not just her beauty, but her humanity itself. What do you think about Elizabeth's horrific crimes? Was she truly insane, or simply evil? Was her beauty obsession a symptom of deeper psychological problems, or just narcissism valuing appearance over human life? Let me know in the comments. If this dark tale fascinated you, smash that like button and subscribe to Throne of Scandals for more jaw-dropping stories of royal madness. Hit the notification bell so you never miss our shocking stories. And check out our video about the royal scandal so shocking it was banned from history books. That story will blow your mind too. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful exteriors hide the ugliest souls. I'll see you in the next scandalous story.